Hey, this is Ash from Revolution Me. I'm doing this video on whether veganism is just another eating disorder because I'm passionate about veganism. I'm also passionate about mental health and I wanted to dispel some myths. So if we think about eating disorders or a person with an eating disorder mindset, eating disorders are not about the food. They're about control. The person with an eating disorder is feeling stressed, anxious, turbulent inside. They might be feeling helpless or hopeless or depressed or experiencing some kind of self-loathing, and the way that they deal with those feelings is by controlling something outside of them in their environment, which happens to be food, the type of food that they eat, and their weight. Now let's contrast this with veganism. Veganism is also not about the food. It's a moral and ethical stance where a person has decided that they're not going to participate in animal cruelty or animal exploitation. So a person who is vegan will not go to marine parks and zoos and circuses, and they won't wear leather or fur. And of course, they won't eat animal products like meat, dairy, eggs, and honey. So veganism is more than just the food. I think that's the only thing that that eating disorders and veganism have in common. I think that's where the similarities end, because eating disorders are about restriction, whereas veganism is about abundance. Eating disorders are about control, and veganism is about liberation. Eating disorders are about self-loathing and are essentially a form of self-harm, whereas veganism is about love and compassion. And I think it's one of the ultimate forms of love, because a person who is vegan, they're sacrificing immediate gratification for the greater good of the animals, their health, and the planet. Now, I know there are people out there who maybe have a eating disorder mindset and they look at a plant-based diet as just another reason to restrict their food intake. And I'm being really deliberate with my language here, because a plant-based diet is not the same as a vegan lifestyle. So there are some people who will adopt a plant-based diet because it means that they get to cut out things that are really high in fat, like meat and eggs and cheese and milk. Now, I'm not saying that this is done maliciously or even consciously. A person might genuinely believe that they are becoming vegan for the right reasons, that they're becoming vegan for their health, for the environment, and for the animals. But if they've still got this calorie restriction, eating disorder kind of mindset, then what happens is they look at veganism as just another excuse to restrict their calories. It's just another way to eat less food. And these individuals, often what happens is they become sick, because if you're not eating enough food, of course you're going to get sick. They develop nutrient deficiencies, they lose a lot of weight, they experience fatigue and dizzy spells, and it all gets blamed on the diet. A lot of people think that vegans are nutrient deficient, which is really interesting because the supplement industry is like a multi-billion-dollar business, and there's only about 1 to 2% of the world who would consider themselves vegan. So I guarantee that this multi-billion dollar supplement industry does not exist simply for this 1 to 2% of people who are vegan. Absolutely not. So people who are not vegan also experience nutrient issues, nutrient deficiencies, fatigue, and so on. Because if you're not taking care of yourself by eating enough and eating enough of the right kinds of foods, then of course you're going to get unwell. And it doesn't matter what kind of diet you were following. You could be following any diet. If you're not eating enough, then you're going to get sick. But veganism cops the blame. And these days, there's a lot of people who say that they are vegan, and then they talk about how veganism didn't work for them, and they start to reintroduce animal products. And when you talk to these people, it can be really clear that they actually were following a really unhealthy diet, or they had a really unhealthy mentality about food. And when you talk to these people, you realize that they weren't actually following a healthy diet at all. They were just eating a ridiculously low amount of calories and using veganism as an excuse. So, is veganism just another eating disorder? I say it's not, but there are lots of people who treat it that way. So if you're considering going vegan, or even if you're just considering cutting out some animal foods from your diet, which I highly recommend because they're terrible for your health, then please don't let a small group of people with eating disorders who have adopted a plant-based diet under the guise of veganism deter you from making that positive change. So I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Leave me a comment below, and I will catch you in the next video.